powerful letter is back in a new avatar. The most affordable, or shall we say, the most basic M car from BMW, the M2 was launched globally earlier this year. The first gen of the 2 Series based sports car was on sale for a good 7 years and in the process became the most successful offering from BMW M by selling over 60,000 units globally. And now this new generation promises to be a more advanced version in almost every way. Barely a few months after its global debut, the second generation of the BMW M2 has come to India. And you know what's the most special thing about it? It is the first ever manual car from the brand in the Indian market. It is also the last time we will see the M2 in an iced version. So a lot of things to look forward to. Let's get straight to the drive. For years, enthusiasts and those who follow the brand BMW have waited for a car like this in India. It isn't that we are getting a car from BMW M for the first time in India. It's a long list in fact, but all of these were automatics or at best came with paddle shifts, while the new M2 with its manual gearbox starts a phase that will be welcomed by the purists all over. Well, this really is a different and unique experience driving a BMW in India with a manual gearbox. The M2 of course also comes with an automatic, but here I am driving the manual gear shift, which is a 6-speed unit. And needless to say, it is fast, it is agile, it is quick. The gear shifts are really slick, but they're not as smoothie. They're quite notchy, and you would like it to be like that looking at the kind of car you're driving. It's good fun to play with this gear lever. You'll always feel more involved as a driver when you're driving a fast sports car when the gear shift is in your hand. The response is anything but sluggish, and the engine here revs to a maximum of 7,000 RPM, while the power delivery is surprisingly linear. The torque band is wide enough, and if you love to drive, you won't have it any other way from this rear wheel drive and twin turbo setup. We have a lot of power and torque to play with here, so around 90 bhp more than what came in the earlier generation, and a torque figure of more than 500 Newton meters. Well, you will just not be disappointed. And not to forget, you're driving a 6-cylinder unit, something not really seen in the segment, just enhances the overall performance of the machine. All the BMW M GmbH Motorsport experience is on display when you get behind the wheel of the new M2. This pocket rocket with its high revving nature races to 100 km per hour in around 4.3 seconds, while the 8-speed M-tronic transmission is slightly quicker at 4.1 seconds. As with many other cars, top speed is limited electronically to 250 km per hour, but if you do choose to buy the optional M Drivers package, it can go up to 285 km per hour. You want your sports car to be small, compact, not really big and bulky, and that is where the M2 really fits in so nicely. The compact dimensions, the less wheelbase, all just come in so handy when you drive this car. The active M differential at the rear axle plays an important part here. It works with dynamic stability control system and uses sensors to provide varied grip levels to different wheels, which just enhances the experience of the driver, especially while taking fast corners. The degree of lock depends on a range of factors, and the car adapts to your driving style to ensure a more engaging feel. And what is BMW M without that sweet sound of the exhaust? The M-specific system is music to the ears once the throttle is pressed hard. Yes, you want sporty appeal when you're driving a car from the M division, but when you compare the new M2 to the previous generation, you do see how the cabin has improved, how it's become more ergonomic, and how it gives you much more luxury and comfort
than earlier. So you can actually spend a lot of time driving this car. I've been now driving it for hours and just want to do more of this for a good time to come. So not feeling tired at all. It is giving you a comfortable drive and your adrenaline is just up there all the time.
The adaptive M suspension is a standard feature on the new M2. Here, electronically controlled dampers ensure maximum possible road contact and good traction at all times. Talking about braking, you get 380mm disc at the front and slightly smaller 370mm unit at the rear. Using the integrated braking system, you can choose how you want to apply brakes in a direct execution or in a more comfort-oriented way.
Now the M2 always comes with a lot of advanced driver assistance systems. They come in really handy in traffic on empty roads. The lanes are marked or they avoid collisions. A lot of features are there. But you also have different modes here where the use or the involvement of these ADAS functions comes down. So you have the road mode, but you press a button here on the center console, the M mode button, and then you can switch to a sport mode or the track mode where the number of ADAS functions reduce. In fact, on the track mode, the ADAS gets completely switched off.
In sport and track modes, the content on cluster and head-up display is reduced, which is a nice touch. Specifically for the track, the car also gets a lap timer along with a M drift analyzer, which oversteers deliberately to help the driver drift better. BMW says the aerodynamic design elements and oil supply systems help keep the temperature in check.
So this is a manual, of course, and that's new for us, but you do get that quintessential BMW sporty drive you're looking for in the new M2. But what you can also do is that choose different settings for different parameters in this car. So for the engine, for the chassis, for the steering, you can choose from different settings, from efficient to comfort to sport, depending on what you're choosing, which setting are you trying to change. And then you can get a more comfortable drive or a more sporty drive depending on your requirement. There's also a gear shift assistant in this manual version of the car. Now what it does is that when you're downshifting quickly, say on a fast corner, the system comes into play to aid you in doing it in a better, quicker way.
It's difficult to find faults with the gear ratios, and the gear spread is matched to the performance characteristics of the engine. The sport setting on the steering suits the character of the car more, and while it requires some extra effort to turn it, the overall experience is more precise.
You also have a lot of settings of traction control. How much involvement you want of the system in the car depends on if your dynamic stability control feature is on or off. Once it is off, you can set multiple levels of traction control on the M2 and again guarantee a lot more fun while driving this car.
The M2 looks equally menacing even when it is stationary. It is 119mm longer than its predecessor, 33mm wider and 7mm lower. The wheelbase too has gone up by a good 54mm and the track widths have also increased. The frameless kidney grille, muscular wheel arches or the frameless doors are some design highlights, while the adaptive LED headlights are available as an option. That is also the case with these red brake calipers and the carbon fiber roof you see here. The rear is particularly attractive with its sloping roofline and the diffuser. 19-inch wheels on the front and 20-inch ones on the rear are standard, though you have the option of upgrading them. This Alpine White Solid is one of the 5 color options you can choose on the car.
So from whichever angle you look at the M2, it looks quite appealing. Of course, the design is all about giving you the best aerodynamics, but this clearly looks like a great work of art as well.
Take a closer look at the cabin, and here too you find significant differences when compared to the previous generation. Clearly the M elements stand out here.
The cabin of the new M2 is as sporty as it can be. Almost everything here points to the fact that you're going to have a great driving experience even before you start driving the car. A lot of M elements here, including these nice M sports seats, high on quality as well. And then a lot of places in the cabin you get carbon fiber finishes as well. And finally, the big curved display here on the dash, something we've gotten used to seeing it on various cars from the brand. The M2 also gets it.
The second row isn't very generous on space, but the front seats too slide forward to provide an easier access for the occupants. The new M2 gets a boot space of 390 litres. This new BMW is a package that is so well put together that it's difficult to not get enamored by it. It's a car that doesn't intimidate you. In fact, it gives you the confidence to drive hard and aids you in many ways without you even realizing it. It is a lovely addition to the brand's portfolio here in India, and despite being from the performance division, comes across as a car that will add a fair value to your garage.
The launch of this new M2 is just around the corner, and we expect the car to start at just under 1 crore rupees ex-showroom.